What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the NYG Blue Zone. It's your boy Atticus. Glad you could spend some time with us today. This Sunday, the New York Giants are hosting the Minnesota Vikings at Giant Stadium. And before we even get into it, I just want to be clear. These are two teams who are not going to the playoffs. The math has already decided that. We don't have to figure out if this team wins and playoff positioning. It's like whatever at this point. You got two divisions that are really different too. The NFC North is just stacked. I mean, with the Bears having the season that they're having, and we already knew that the Packers were a pretty good team. And then you got the Lions, who people were actually thinking they were going to make it to the Super Bowl this year. I don't know about all that, but that division was already really tough. And going into the season, you kind of thought that the NFC East might be a little more challenging than it was, but it simply wasn't. Like, the Eagles were just a better team in the division this year. The Cowboys do what they always do. They just collapse like a folding table. Nobody knew what the Giants would be, although there was a lot of optimism going in. And the Commanders were in an NFC Championship game last year. So a lot of people thought they were going to do well. But a complete tale of two different divisions. While the NFC North is looking really good, the NFC East is again being led by the Philadelphia Eagles, who for the first time in I think 20 years have repeated as division champions. So, congratulations to them, I guess. I mean, even though I can't stand the Eagles, they did what no other NFC East team has been able to do for a very long time. So, but, it's not like we're going to be looking at other scoreboards this Sunday. It's just going to be a continuation of evaluation of the players and seeing what we have on our roster, who we're potentially going to keep. And I think for the most part, our minds have already been made up with who's a contributor, who is not, who we never want to see in the Giants uniform again, who we never want to see on the sideline again, and who we don't want to see in the front office anymore. So it's kind of cool in that sense, but it also sucks that we're having this conversation again already. So evaluation is what we're looking at. Direction is what we're looking at. And for Giants fans, it's about a conversation that a lot of people are having, whether we like it or not. So today we're going to preview Sunday and talk honestly about where the franchise sits with 3 games left. What are we actually looking at? But before I get into all of that, I want to say, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that every time we drop some new content, you're one of the first ones to be notified. And thanks again for all the engagement. We are finally over 1,000 subscribers, so that's pretty cool to reach that milestone on YouTube. And on TikTok, we killing it. You can also find us wherever you listen to podcasts, by the way, whether that be Apple Podcasts or on Google Podcasts or on Spotify. We're like everywhere. So, and we do thank you guys for all the engagement that you watch and you talk to us about. So thank you for that. All right, so let's get into it. This Sunday versus Minnesota. On paper, this looks like a matchup of two teams just playing out the string, But when you dig into it, there's some storylines that we can still talk about, right? Like the Minnesota Vikings offensive line is beat up. They got some injuries that they're dealing with. They've shuffled a lot of different combinations on that line this season. And you would think with all of that in this Giants defensive front, Dexter Lawrence is finally going to have a good game. Darius Alexander's going to show why he was drafted. Abdul Carter, the performance he put on last week, you just want to see a lot more of that. Brian Burns has been a force all year. It seemed like he got to that sack number 13 real quick, and then he kind of just stumbled off a little bit. So maybe he'll be able to get some production this game too. A lot of pressure. I'm hoping that they're able to get on J.J. McCarthy this week. But this is one of those games where if the Giants defense plays really disciplined football, they could keep things close and probably get away with a win. And we're going to talk about the potential of winning versus not winning and all of that stuff too. But if we're just looking at the fundamentals of what we would like to see our team do, you kind of, even if you understand the whole tanking thing, you kind of want to see your team play well and perform in certain aspects anyway, right? So defensively, if they play well and they maintain their gaps, they're good at putting them in third and long situations, second and long situations. They got a good chance of performing well defensively. And offensively, this is another week for evaluation too. We want to see how Dart continues to handle the pressure that he has now found himself in, particularly when it comes to protecting himself, sliding, getting out of bounds before he takes the hit, making good reads, seeing what the defense is showing him, because we really don't know what Brian Flores is going to do. I mean, he leads the league in pressure rates, and it's not even close. It's like 46% of the snaps are going to be blitzes. So that's going to be another good challenge for Jackson Dart to get some more experience on how he can improve his game moving forward. And I got to say, Jackson Dart's performed really well against the blitz this year. So while I think he'll do okay, this is just going to be another week for him to hone that craft on reading the defense, um, getting good at the quick game. Gonna see. I think we can expect to see a lot of Wandale Robinson and Theo Johnson and maybe even Daniel Bellinger, who again proves to be pretty good at catching the ball whenever you need him to. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. I know that the Giants had elevated Bo Collins off the practice squad or from injured reserve, and he was expected to come back and play. But something's going on with that where I don't even think he's going to make it onto the field. But does it even matter for the Giants at this point? I mean, they have Darius Slayton, who somebody referred to him as sugar water Slayton. I thought that was hilarious. But because he's just so inconsistent. I mean, the one consistent thing about Darius Slayton over the course of his career is how inconsistent he has become. And it's upsetting because I happen to like Darius Slayton, not just as a player, but I think he's a good guy. And he went through a lot of adversity when the Dable regime started. And I mean, finding himself buried in the depth chart to making his way back up to nearly the top of the depth chart. But he's been consistent for a lot of years in being the number one receiver, but he's also been consistent in the area of dropping passes. And I really think that the Giants are probably fed up with it at this point. I know the fans are fed up. Doesn't take away from how I feel about him as a person, but yeah, it's just too many drop passes that we're seeing from him. So, but again, I was talking about Jackson Dart and him getting a taste of the Brian Flores treatment against quarterbacks in this league. And he's actually a guy who I really like. And I'd like to see Brian Flores, if he can make his way into the Giants coaching staff. I know he got stuff going on with the league and with the Giants in particular. But if there's a Tomlin signing by the Giants as the new head coach, if that should ever happen in my dream fantasy, I'd like to see Brian Flores over there on that sideline calling out our defense with the players that we have. But the offensive line protecting Dart has done pretty well this year. Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor finds themselves in the top 10 in pass protection in the league for tackles in the NFL, which is a pretty good place to find yourself, particularly when you consider how bad the Giants' offensive line has been for a number of consecutive years. Not just a one off, but they've just historically in the last decade been a bad unit. And this year they've played pretty well. I would dare say even Runyon, GVR, and John Michael Schmitz have played well. The offensive line overall for the Giants have really performed well this year. They're right in the middle of the pack of the league and not at the bottom of the league, which is where they haven't been in a very long time. So I want to see how they hold up against this Brian Flores blitz heavy defense. If they're able to keep Dart on his feet, if we're going to see him have to head to the blue 10 again this week. I hope not, but I think it's going to be a good test for him. I think it's going to be a good test for the line. and it's going to be a good test for those tight ends and slot receivers. So this isn't going to be about Evan Neal getting on the field, which he might play. I don't know if he's going to be in uniform. I talked about this in a prior podcast. The fact that he was activated and that 21-day window was open for him tells me that they're going to try to fit him into the rotation, but I still don't understand the why behind it. So we're gonna see. I don't know what that means, But things are really interesting, right? Because the players and the coaches, they will never admit to this, but we as fans, we're absolutely talking about it. And for Giants fans, it seems like every November, early December, we're already looking at the draft. We're already talking about players. And the reason you do that, the only reason you do that is because you are so high in the draft order that that's what you have to look forward to. Like, what pieces can we bring on board to potentially put us in a position where we can finally compete in this league? But the players and coaches, they won't admit it. But the draft position is a real thing right now. And currently, the Giants are sitting with the number one overall pick in the draft. And the reality is simple. If we want to keep that position, the most likely path is to lose the final 3 games of the season. Could they win one and still stay at number one? Possibly. But the cleanest math says just lose out. Get the number one pick. Why do we want it? Let me be real clear. The players don't tank. The coaches don't tank. Their careers are on the line every single snap they play. But for us, the fans, I think we're thinking a little bit longer term than that, because a player's career and a coach's career is not as long as the fandom that we have as individuals. We're lifelong fans. These guys could be on another team next year, and they're really not going to care. And I kind of get it. I remember Kevin Durant, and this is pivoting to basketball a little bit, but he was real candid about his feeling about what fans thought about something that he said or a trade that was made with him. And he was like, I really don't care what the fans think, because just as much as fans will love you, they will hate you and trash you the next day. And he's right. When the laws of self-preservation come into play, you really don't think about that. That's just noise. And I honestly admire players that's able to filter out the noise and just focus on what their jobs are, to play and play well, to perform and perform well, and to perform well for the men who surround you on that team or on that court. That's what the focus needs to be. So I kind of admire that. But losing for us, it will put us in position to help build our team for the long term. Losing for players, it hurts their ability to get re-signed or potentially move into a better situation next year. So I think the number one pick, it will be powerful if we can keep it. I even think the number 2 or number 3 pick can be powerful. And this is not a quarterback heavy draft coming up. But the Giants got a lot of holes that they need to fill. And when you have as many holes as we have, you want a lot of opportunities to fill those holes, right? A lot of people say we should tank. Some people say win the games you can win. The way the Giants have been playing, they're probably going to end up losing out anyway. They can't do the right thing by making sure that we have the right personnel on the field. Part of that is because we have poor depth. Part of that is because we can't seem to find a kicker or a special teams unit to perform well to keep us in games. If you think about, I think 3 of our last 4 games, special teams, you could probably point the finger at specifically and say, you're the reason why we lost this game. And we keep doing that repeatedly. So, there's a lot of reasons why the Giants will probably lose out this season. And I would say a large percentage of the reason why rests strongly on bad personnel decisions and coaching. I think that overall, the roster has probably 60 to 65% of what they need in place. but that other 35 to 40% is so bad. It's so bad. So no matter where we find ourselves in the one or the two position, teams are going to call. There's a couple of teams out there that need quarterbacks. There's only probably two quarterbacks in this draft that people are going to be really looking at, Mendoza being one of them. But, a lot of teams are going to make calls and they're going to make their offers, and the Giants are going to be in very favorable position. And if they're smart and they don't rush, they're going to have teams vying to get that number one overall pick, or maybe number two if we fall to the second position. Trade down. Maybe once, maybe twice. Suddenly that pick turns into 4 or 5 premium picks. And that ain't tanking. That's just being very resourceful with your assets and making sure that your asset, your best commodity going into the offseason is your draft position, turning that into multiple assets and fill those holes. So if they do trade down, and I know this is supposed to be a preview of the Vikings game, but if they do trade down, let's assume that they find themselves in that position where they have one of these picks, and they draft based on need and not best player available. I think this is what they need to do. They definitely need to attack that middle linebacker position. We have seen how lack of depth has put us in a position where we're one of the worst run defenses in the league. And your middle linebacker, even though they're just behind your defensive line, that they're that second layer of effective run stoppage for your team. And we saw how when Micah McFadden went down, we really lost the ability to stop the running game. And this is not to take away from Bobby Okereke, because I like Bobby. He's a little bit slower. And our defensive line, by the way, has not done a good job being that first layer of protection. But we really need help at that linebacker position. And I mean, a real third down guy who maintains gap integrity. He doesn't abandon the A or the B gap and get faked out by crosses and switches. He's where he's supposed to be, and he has a positive for us but negative impact on the play for the offense, right? And somebody who can run a defense. We also need wide receiver help. Like I talked about before, the inconsistency of Darius Slayton is glaring. That's a big problem. I made an earlier podcast about the need to re-sign Wan'Dale Robinson, and I got a little bit of pushback on that. There are some people who think that he should not be re-signed because he's going to ask for more money than he's worth. I have watched the Giants make the mistake of that argument time and time again, only to regret it later. That guy has been consistently productive, giving up the body, making the tough catches, getting the tough yards. To be a small guy who's 5'8", he delivers. And the Giants can craft a deal that makes sense for him and sense for the Giants. They just need to sit down at the table and make it work. They can do it. I've seen other teams do it. The Giants can do it too. He's a chain mover. And we're going to need another person to support this wide receiving core that we have. We don't have that right now. We have guys who haven't even started in games for 2 years that we're bringing off of other teams' practice squad because we have terrible depth. And I really do think they're going to move in a different direction from Darius Slayton. And who are you going to replace him with? You need another dude over there. So they need to look at somebody like that in the draft also. And I also think that I'm not convinced the Giants are going to re-sign Illuminor, although I think they should. But even if they don't, they got to think about depth on that offensive line. We are one injured Andrew Thomas away, one injured Jermaine Illuminor, GVR, John Michael Schmitz. Although I will say Schlotty has played well in his absence. But we're just one, maybe two injuries away from just being in a real bad spot. As much as I like him, Bo, I think we need more depth along that offensive line. And then we need to strengthen our secondary, which has just been woefully bad. It's been tragically bad. And part of that is a byproduct of the fact that the defensive line and linebackers have been very ineffective stopping the run and just setting up play action. And when you got these safeties cheating down, you just open up these huge gaping holes in the secondary. And we have not been very good at covering and reacting, angles and tackling. There's just so many issues that you could point at on defense that's really put us in a situation where the reason why we're the 32 ranked defense in the league in so many categories, which is crazy because the Giants were supposed to be one of the top 5 defenses coming into this season, and they've been historically bad, and it's very upsetting. We need a corner. We need a safety. We need depth. This is why they need to trade down and have many more opportunities to get some of these players that's going to help our team. So depending on what happens with contracts, with Jermaine, with Bimbo, there's questions, but there's also a lot of opportunities, And I'm telling you, if you trade down and draft a need, our first 4 picks could realistically be a middle linebacker who starts immediately, a wide receiver who complements Neighbor's play and puts us in a position where we have more reliability at that position. And keep in mind, I don't think Shane's the guy because he traded up to get Jalen Hyatt, who right now can't even see the field. We also need to think about that offensive line. We need a DB. We need somebody who's got speed, instincts, and has good angles. Plus, they know how to freaking tackle. The one thing that Ben McAdoo, and I hate to bring his name up, but Ben McAdoo, the one thing that he said that I will always agree with is you have to master the simple. The Giants have not mastered the simple. When you start playing football from a little boy in the Pee Wee leagues, you learn how to wrap a guy up and tackle. You grab him, you lean your body weight in on them, and you bring them to the ground. You got too many guys trying to hit guys instead of bringing them down. They don't wrap up. They're trying to strip them instead of tackling him. You got to master the simple, and they haven't really been able to do that. And this is where it gets personal, because every Sunday I feel a conflict, and I talked about this before. Like my head saying, lose, control that draft board, build it right. But my heart still wants to win. When the Giants score, I cheer. I can't help it. I'm like screaming, I'm yelling when they miss a tackle. I can't help it. Like I want to see that locker room smile in that post-game press conference. I want to hear, I want to see, I want to feel like we're capable. I want our players to be rewarded for the effort that they put on the field. So, yeah, I hope they compete on Sunday. I hope Jackson Dart plays well. I hope he reads and checks out of plays and hits the hot read. And I want to see him put up 400 yards and score 4 touchdowns. I want the defense to fly around and Abdul Carter get 2 sacks, Brian Burns get a sack, Dexter Lawrence put heavy pressure and get a sack. I want that. And if they win, I'm going to enjoy the fuck out of Victory Monday. Even if my draft brain knows, dude, you just set yourself up for the number 2 pick instead of the number 1. I'm still going to want that. But I want that number 1 pick. It's such a terrible place to be, but that's where I am. And I know I'm not alone. So this Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings, this ain't about the playoffs. It's about clarity. It's about evaluation. It's about direction. It's about understanding that sometimes losing hurts, but helps later. The key is doing something meaningful with that opportunity. Like when that happens, do something meaningful with it. And when it comes to our secondary, and this is a part of the reason why losing will help us, we need better players desperately on the back end of our defense. I'm going to tell you right now, Justin Jefferson has been frustrated the last few weeks, and I am not a believer in J.J. McCarthy. I'm just not. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I was very happy the Giants didn't draft him. He's not a very good quarterback. But when Justin Jefferson is feeling and saying some of the things he's saying, he's going to end up having a big game. And you watch, I'm going to be watching. I really think he is going to Puka Nakua our defense. What a game the other day by the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams, though. What a game. Yo, Thursday Night Football is the new Monday Night Football. That's all I'm saying. But I just think that Justin Jefferson is going to, eat. And he's going to eat well. He's going to find him. He's going to eat so good, you're going to think he's having a turkey coma on the sideline, because I think our secondary is just not very good. And but that depends on J.J. McCarthy playing well, who I think is not a very good quarterback. I'm not going to go as far as say he's terrible, but they should have kept Daniel Jones in Minnesota, or they should have kept Sam Darnold. But they made the wrong choice in J.J. McCarthy. He's just not a very good quarterback. You never know who he's going to be. So hopefully, the Giants come away with the win, but hopefully the Minnesota Vikings win and we maintain that number one pick in the draft. And I hope the Las Vegas Raiders win all the rest of their games and Tennessee finds a new life and they start looking real good and win some games. And even if we do win tomorrow, if they win, we good. We still got the number one pick. So that's it for me on this show, y'all. I appreciate you spending some time with us. Thank you very much. Again, don't forget, if you like what you saw here, share the channel with one of your friends. Have them like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. So every time we drop some new content, you guys are one of the first ones to be notified. Don't forget, I'm going to end it the way I always do. Go Big Blue.
Yeah, a lot of girls probably crying from my old high school. Look, they see me everywhere they go. I probably would too. Look, crossed over to the Jordan men like I'm Michael. Yeah, eating blessings so much I might need lipo. Yeah, tailored for the doves like I'm walking in chucks. Yeah, it's just in this plan, man, I see all y'all shook. Look, knew that I was great ever since I was a rook. Man, all y'all singles making me look good. Okay, praise to the Most High, yeah, that's Jesus. Look, but when it come to this rap thing, I can't lose. Yeah, back-to-back number ones, that's a thing greats do. Yeah, tell them boys that ain't nothing I can't do. It's my year. It's my year.